Yeah. My sermon title, or the service title, is a play on that, because practice makes perfect is true, but not 100%, not perfectly true, right? It's not perfectly true, because practice only makes permanent, right? Whatever we do over and over again, if we do something over and over, we get really used to it, and whatever we're doing becomes easier. I mean, think of someone who practices, for say, a musical instrument, or learns a new language. I mean, I will get better at the violin if I take the time to practice it. I will be able to speak Hungarian better when I go over vocabulary again and again. But if I practice the violin holding it incorrectly, or if I learn my Hungarian words with mispronunciation, and I do it over and over again, then I will form a habit of incorrectly holding my instrument, or saying something that's not really the right word. Right? This won't be perfect. And just as walking over a path, if we went outside and just walked a path in the grass or in the field over and over, we would make an easier path. The grass would be tamped down. It would be harder, not hard, to stray from that, right? And so habitual movements make pathways in our actions, and they make pathways in our brains. So the idea that practice makes permanent can be used to our advantage, though, because it's not only negative. Because we humans tend to be creatures of habit, but we aren't only creatures of habit. Right? We're able to look with a mindful eye. We're able to come with our conscious awareness of what we're doing and how we're doing it. And so I want everyone to take a little thought experiment with me. For a few moments, I want you to think over the past few days, the past few weeks even, and recall what you have done, what you've experienced. And as you remember the recent past, I want you to focus on the negative. Yeah, anything that didn't go well, went poorly, where you felt out of control, where you felt anxious, upset, angry, or sad. I'll give you a little bit of time just to think about that. Now, I don't want to spend a lot of time on the negative, so that's all you get right there. That's it. We're going to shift now. We're going to do the opposite of the same experiment. Now, recall the exact same time frame, or about, right? It's about the past couple weeks, days, whatever you had in your mind, and think again about what you were doing, what you experienced, but this time, focus on the positive, what you were grateful for, what went really well, what you're like, oh yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, where you were happy, where you had a sense of accomplishment, joyous or at peace. So take some time with that. Now, I like to give examples and embody what I talk about, and that's why I gave you more time on purpose, because we make those ruts, those habits of being positive. It makes a difference, right? How did those two activities feel? You can just shout out or just think to yourself. How did they feel? Different. Yeah, what was the difference? Was there any difference? It was hard. Which one was harder? The positive was harder. Anyone agree or disagree? Have different feelings? Yeah? Yeah? How'd you feel after the first one? Heavy? Shaking head, yeah. How'd you feel after the second one? Thumbs down? Yeah. How about the second one? Thumbs up? Yeah. Okay. Hopefully lighter. Yeah. What's that? Fulfilled. Yes. Yeah. Right? I mean, it's a sort of a mind trick, right? This is a mind trick, right? We're doing the same time frame, different focus. And so we're not changing the past. There's nothing we can do now to change the past. I mean, unless we've invented a time machine, which I haven't heard about yet. So, and you'd think you'd hear about that, but you can't change the past. Right? You can't change the past, but what you can change is how you view it, how you think about it, how you remember it, what you're remembering. Right? That's the practice. The practice is you can change how you view it, the shift of the mindset. I'll give an example about my grandmother. I love my grandmother. But she was really good about being negative. She was like really, really good at it. She was fun-loving, exciting, but she was so focused on the negative. We would go out to dinner, and almost everything would go wrong. The food was too cold, the bathroom was dirty, her husband spoke too much, her husband didn't speak enough, right? Yeah, right? You can see the meal was too expensive. I mean, the litany, we could keep on going. And it didn't matter the exact situation. And even when she was with the rest of the family, the extended family, we had the exact same experience. We were like, well, the food, I thought my food was warm, and Grandpa was, good with his conversation, and I liked the food, and it wasn't that expensive, and the bathroom was clean. It didn't matter, right? It didn't matter because it wasn't the fact, it was the mindset. Now, it wasn't unpleasant to be with her. It just seemed that we were having sort of different experiences. We were living in different realities of the same thing that's happening. And this is where practice makes permanent. And this is where it holds true for our mindsets and our actions. Oh, if I practice the violin, if I practice Hungarian, I'll get better at doing that. If I practice being positive, I can get better at doing that. My grandmother had practiced being negative. Unintentionally, probably, but she got really good at that. And our outlook, we can shift, we can change over time, and our outlook becomes that well-worn path in the field, right? That becomes harder and harder to leave. I mean, we could keep going with this analogy. I mean, there's a paved path. Okay, that's really intentional. That's the easy path if you keep walking on that same path. If you keep thinking of someone with negative connotations or someone or past action negatively, it will stay negative in your mind. If you always focus on the negative, on the positive, right? If you don't do negative, you do positive, you'll remember it with a positive spin. You remember like, oh yeah, that was great, that was wonderful, right? Reminisce with regret. You'll hold on to that regret. Reminisce with gratitude, you will hold on to that gratitude. I mean, again, it sounds like mind tricks. It's like, oh, you're just changing words. It's like tricking yourself. It's about being untrue to ourselves. But that's not it, because it's not the question of how we trick ourselves. The question is whether we know we're doing it or not. Did you catch that? Like, it's not, we're going to inform our memories with emotions. We're going to do it. You can't help but do it. It's just a question of whether you're mindful of what you're doing or not. Whether you're like, oh, yeah, whenever I think about that, I'm really negative. Okay, I can try. I can start to shift that. We can help. We have this ability to shift our outlook. That's the human nature too. We have the habit, but we can shift, right? We have that power. There's an aspect of psychology which deals with the ability to change our outlook. And if you want a big term, the official term is neuroplasticity, right? Neuroplasticity, ability to change your mind. This is a thing. It's ability for your mind to be flexible. And the more, anyone who exercises, the more you stretch, the more flexible you are. So the more you stretch your mind, it's the same thing. The more you use that neuroplasticity, the better you get, especially with regard to emotions, with feelings. We can train our minds to act differently with regard to memory, with regard to expectations. And the reading we heard today, it references these habits and these practice. Robert Emmons, he's studied a lot and written a lot about gratitude. And he says that humans are naturally selfish beings. He says that gratitude does not come easily or naturally, particularly in a culture that values self-aggrandizement, right? Thinking about oneself is natural. Humility is unnatural. Perhaps this is why gratitude is counterintuitive. It goes against our natural inclinations. We want to take credit for the good we've encountered. And this self-serving bias is the adult derivative of childhood egocentricity. Oh. Emmons, he's reflecting actually from a Christian's perspective. But the theology, I think, the specific theology is sort of secondary. He says that gratitude is necessary because our lives are gifts from a benevolent, from an all-powerful creator God. Now, even if your theology differs, the truth is that we all have stuff to be grateful for that we had nothing to do in creating or making happen, right? No credit at all. Listen to this reading from Reverend Dick Fuchs. He's a is more humanist in his writings, and if you want to read along, it's in the hymnal in the back, 515. And this is one you may have heard before. For the sun and the dawn which we did not create, for the moon and the evening which we did not make, for food which we plant but cannot grow, for friends and loved ones we have not earned and cannot buy, for this gathered company which welcomes us as we are, from wherever we come, for all our free churches that keep us human and encourage us in our quest for beauty, truth, and love, for all things which come to us as gifts of being from sources beyond ourselves, gifts of life and love and friendship, we lift up our hearts in thanks this day. That is to say, a grateful point of view for our lives is not merely Christian. It's not solely humanist, actually. We could keep on going. I mean, the story today is an Eastern moral story, a Taoist story about what is good and what is bad. Right? The message is obvious. It's hard to hear it here, maybe, but sometimes we can oh, yeah, what's good or what's bad? Yeah, I hear that. I get that, right? To assign any value to any circumstance, any experience, is a little bit construed. We can say, oh, that's good, that's bad. Is the horse running away good or bad? Well, we can decide based on our perception. This is neuroplasticity, right? And it's also ancient Buddhism, which we may have heard this aphorism. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Am I splitting hairs? Hold on, wait a second. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. And that's a tough one, right? Especially when you are hurt, where you are in a place of suffering. It doesn't feel optional. And I can think of many times when my suffering did not feel optional. And I bet you all can too. You're like, yeah, I hear what the Buddha's saying, but it doesn't work. Right? What does that mean? Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. It means there are hardships in life. Right? I mean, there are times when things don't go our way. There are times when our horse runs away, proverbially, or actually, if you have a horse. I mean, there is pain. That is inevitable. You will feel pain. But suffering is different. Suffering is what we do with that pain that we have. The Dalai Lama says, to a large extent, whether you suffer depends on how you respond to a given situation. Yeah. We can sit with our pain. We can stew with it. We can let everyone know about our pain. We can create more suffering for ourselves. I've been there. Yeah, I've been there. Sometimes that's necessary. Or we can choose to have a very different reaction. And this is the part that, frankly, I find the hardest to hear, that suffering is optional. I take the advice, if you've heard me preach before, I like Viktor Frankl. Dr. Viktor Frankl, he's a neurologist, psychiatrist, and he's a Holocaust survivor. In Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, he states, everything can be taken from a man or woman, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Now, Frankl has a certain clout in saying this. He lost everything. His possessions, his family, his friends in World War II. And yet he came out saying, I can choose my response. And he still said that human beings have the freedom to choose their reaction. We can always choose our attitude. That's saying pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Yeah, getting to that place, if we ever do, getting to a place where we can truly hear, hold in our hearts and say that pain is inevitable, suffering is optional, that takes work and time. But choosing our attitude is a way we can start to live in gratitude. An important thing to remember is that it's not so much what happens to us as how we interpret what is happening, right? We all experience heartache. We all experience jubilation. The difference can be how we react to those, how we take it in. Right? One approach to pain is pretty simple. This is a sort of positive on the road to getting to infinite gratitude. This is the first step of saying, we can probably all do it. I do this. We say, oh, it could be worse. Right? It could be worse. It diminishes our own pain and discomfort a little bit by comparing it to something or someone else. I missed my bus today and had to wait for the next one. Well, it could be worse. It could have been raining, right? There are any number of things that could make our hardships worse. So sometimes the best way to help alleviate our discomfort, increase gratitude, is to compare our circumstances against a less desirable outcome. I feel very thankful when I look at the country we are in, the freedoms we have, especially as compared to other places in the world. That comparison gets harder sometimes. But you can see that this outlook, as we're doing it, this outlook relies on us judging someone or something else being worse than us. So even though it sometimes helps to say, well, things could be worse, it's only sort of the first small step on the path. And earlier, I shared a tale about going deeper with positive outlook. That's the farmer and the horse. And some of us have heard it before. Sometimes it's the first today. The horse runs away. That's bad. Horse brings other horses. That's good. The son falls while riding. That's bad. The son isn't conscripted. That's good. All right? Never did the farmer say, well, at least I didn't have the problems that Earl had down the street. Right? No. He didn't say that. He could have compared his problems to someone else. He said, who knows what is good or bad? He realized that every event can be positive or negative based on what happens later or based on how we look at it. Right? The definition of good and bad is sort of in flux there. There isn't a universal set experience. Like, experiences don't have good or bad attached to them. It's hard to hear sometimes. This experience may lead to something good or bad. I missed the bus, but maybe I meet a new friend on the next one. Not just it could be worse, rather, who knows what is good or bad? And here we're open to potential good. Well, the horse ran away. It might bring wild horses. And we can go even further than just saying, who knows what is good and bad? Here's where I push the farmer. I say, yeah, farmer, but let's even go further. How do we get to saying, going beyond good and acknowledging the good in everything? Right? It takes practice. This is where the practice makes permanent. The practice beginning in the small steps and small ways and growing. In practice, we can be on a path to long-term spiritual, positive attitude of mindful gratitude and thanksgiving. We can reframe our lives with gratitude, with focus on being thankful. And I'm going to share another example. This one is from my father-in-law and how he focuses on gratitude. Not always. Just like my grandmother isn't always negative. My father-in-law isn't always grateful. But here's a great story. Some winters ago, we were on a family vacation, and I remember this one part, but I don't remember why it came to happen. He was driving us from the airport to our car. And I'm trying to think of why did that happen? I have no idea. But he picked us up at the airport, drove us to our car, and it was in December, so it was cold. So we get our bags, and we take them from one car to the next, and we started the car. And we tried to start the car, and our battery was dead, which meant that instead of rushing off home, warming up, I had some time with my family, time with my father-in-law, figuring out how to jump a first-generation Prius from a second-generation Prius. Right? And in some crowds, the difficulty of this maneuver may be lost, but I think some of us, we might know this. It's like, because in Priuses, the batteries aren't in the same place from generation to generation, if you didn't know that, and they're not always obvious. You pop the hood and you're like, well, there's one battery, but that's not the one that I'm going to jump. It's a smaller battery. Where is that? Could be in the trunk. Could be in the hood. Oh, but you don't attach it to the battery. There's actually terminals. Well, I could keep on going, right? That's the thing. It's like, it was hard. And needless to say, this is how we would go. How did we react? how do we react? Not how do we actually jump the cars. We can talk about that later, but how did we react? Because that's the crux of the message, right? We could have been angry, upset. We were stuck in the cold. We were trying to get this car started. My father-in-law was thankful. This is what I remember. He was so thankful. He was grateful that our battery died because we were forced to have more time together, enjoying the crisp, cool air. And he's a scientist, always has been, always will be. And he was so happy to learn something new. He was like, wow, this is great. I can learn something new and be with my daughter and her family, right? These activities aren't different from anything which might happen in your life. You might miss a bus. Your horse might run away. Your battery might die and you need to jump start. Something bad will happen. The difference is in the internal decision to be grateful. And there are mental, there are spiritual exercises based solely on outlook. It consists of taking experiences, reframing our attitude around it, right? I'm sad that the horse ran away, reframed. I feel so happy that the horse brought an entire herd with it. I'm really frustrated that our battery died, reframed as, I'm so happy I got to spend more time with my family and learn something new. Again, from Viktor Frankl. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. The crux of his message is we can't control everything that happens, but we can always control our reactions. So the framing is to move on. These are the steps from this sucks to it could be worse to, well, who knows what is good or bad to all life is a gift. It's harder than just walking across the stage here, right? It's the very easy, the very hard. It takes practice. It takes a number of small steps along a path, an acknowledgement that life is good over and over and over again will help us make that path, will help to make our own lives and our own world more grateful. I end with a saying from Meister Eckhart. He's a 13th century German theologian, and it speaks to the simplicity and the difficulty of our task. Eckhart says, if the only prayer you ever said in your entire life is thank you, it is enough. So thank you and amen.